Well, players are split between Season 4 and Season of Discovery, Cataclysm Classic, and the Mist of Pandaria never mind. I think my path is clear. Hey, it's Zolt, and this is Warcraft Weekly, filling you in on what I think you should know. You can support the channel by hitting the like button, subscribing for more coverage, and catching me live on Twitch. The Mist of Pandaria remix is chugging along with the further rounds of whack-a-mole hotfixes aiming to improve the overall vibe of Endgame, from individual boss tuning to scaling that favors players who aren't investing their bronze into gear upgrades. Now, some are pretty upset when Blizzard dropped the news that they had no plans to lower the costs of these said upgrades. Meanwhile, others are trying to rise above the discourse and are helping to carry full raids through Siege of Orgrimmar and the other raids, so lesser geared players can get bronze and progress towards getting their shoulders or their heirlooms or whatever. I'd like to think that they're trying to push against that perception that group leaders require a bunch of super geared people just in order to clear raids, when really you just need one very exceptional person. Now, I know it's kind of unusual to think that there might be people who are simply willing to help others out, and talk is cheap, so the best that I can do is to become the example, then hope that others pick up on it and do the same. But today I want to bring up something that is much less talked about in the MoP remix, and I'm going to admit fault here. I overlooked and I underreported this until pretty much right now. I've reminded people again and again and forever again that you don't need to run bleeding edge content in order to get all the appearances. Like, you can buy them all off a vendor, so just focus on bronze farming via alts and leveling. It's easy. But I was wrong saying that you can buy everything with bronze. So, I apologize, but let's talk about what's going on. Bronze can be used to buy almost all the armor ensembles in the remix, including exclusive recolors. What's missing, though, from these vendors are weapons. Lots and lots of weapon recolors that can be found from outdoor questing and scenarios and dungeons and raids in every difficulty. In fairness, they're all recolors, and maybe that's not important to you, okay? But for some of us it is very important, and it alters how we're going to approach the remix. Using myself as an example, even though I did a lot of very focused farming for bronze, even after blowing almost 600,000 bronze on upgrades, I'm still doing a lot of everything. I'm no longer putting in like those 10 plus hours a day farming, more like spreading my activities around with almost no focus on bronze because, well, obviously I finished it. So my day includes a good bit of outdoor dailies for boxes to open. I'm queuing for dungeons and scenarios and Raid Finder too. You probably noticed by now that there aren't any boss specific drops, so one wing per raid is pretty much enough, and I'm switching my loot spec when I want to switch from like one-handers to two-handers to offhands or what have you. And if I can, I'm carrying people through raids. I'm bringing folks along for the ride that I would otherwise just do solo. And I'm not sweating over it. I'm not doing all of it at the same time with this go 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 attitude. I'm just like putting an hour or two into this per day. So it's not a huge shift from my more relaxed behavior. It's basically the same as always, where I'm making a path that balances my wanting to farm with also not wanting to lose my mind. Outside of my very narrow viewpoint though, this slightly alters the strategy just a bit for transmog farmers who want a bit of everything. It's going to start off very familiar. I've been preaching this the whole time to run through alts of different classes for bronze that you can spend on the vendors. This time I encourage you to run a greater variety of activities while tracking the progression of weapon appearances using add-ons like all the things. Bronze and threads, it's going to come steadily enough that those might feel kind of like an afterthought compared to hoping for that weapon appearance to finally drop. And if you do want to travel down that road for player power, at least like a little bit, consider a character that can tank or heal for the sake of fast queues and fast clears too. And don't rush it. If you feel fine just upgrading a few times and then you want to go ham on mount purchases, hey, go for it. I admit that, like many, I got caught up in the bronze farm, not realizing that I could have made a much better use of my time spreading my attention over like a wider area of the remix, so I'm farming up, a little bit of everything I want at once between the threads and the bronze and the appearances that I can and cannot buy. As you might have guessed, I finished upgrading all of my gear, but if I could do this all over again, I would do it just a little bit differently, and I would probably not be as strong as I am now, my character, but I know that I'd be pretty close, and I wouldn't be backtracking like I am now. But I'm now at least in a position where I can offer carries for people who are just getting started or farming for whatever. So maybe I'll see you in game blasting through stuff and waiting for everyone to get to the boss room because, dude, locking people out like that, it's like so rude. But how about you? How's your collecting going? Are you taking a break? Are you burnt out? Or are you doing one last hurrah before hopping into the War Within beta? Because speaking of, the beta is coming real soon, and it shows as of this build. I did a bit of a playthrough the other day, and while we're nowhere near that polishing phase, we're starting to see more of it come together, with lots of voice acting being added. There's more life being added to the future capital hub of ours, and usually the transition from alpha to beta has these like small additions and details that typically aren't needed in the alpha. I found it interesting that in their announcement, Blizzard said that those who had pre-ordered the Epic Edition of the War Within are going to have immediate access to the beta, and I think this is the first time they're doing this. I kind of recall when the Mist of Pandaria started its beta back in the day, and yeah, I bought into it with that Diablo 3 promotion, whatever it was, but it still took a while until I got access. On the one hand, I think this is cool that the perk it's pretty plainly being advertised as immediate access, give or take a few days because of stability, I guess. But on the other hand, though, it's kind of a cash grab, right? Beta is beta, but I gotta say it's pretty far along, so anyone who wants to check things out, even in the first build, is going to get a pretty good preview of all the expansion's high-level features and a taste of how our class is going to kind of look and feel before it goes live. So I'd claim that there's a value to beta access for someone who decided that yes, they want to have that kind of edge. But there's that challenge, right, where you'd otherwise not spend any money now, especially extra money, but you get tempted because, ooh, early playtest, wow, look at the tender, dude, I want to pre-order. I also got to point out the folks who want the digital goodies and the beta access, but they ended up pre-ordering the physical collector's edition instead because that's what they want. They're in kind of a weird boat because their workaround is to buy the digital Epic Edition anyway to get the beta access and then refund it for BattleNet balance. That's not ideal, although I do imagine that slice of the Venn diagram to be not small, but just small enough that it's the only workaround that Blizzard's willing to work with. Gamers as a whole have always had this love-hate relationship with pre-orders, notably on the ethics of it, but I'm curious, what's your take on it? Alright, let's go over a few highlights in this build. We have the template of what I guess is going to be the Keystone Master mount in War Within, because I'm going to assume that the other seasons are going to include recolors. Season 1 is going to feature a blue diamond colored mech suit that can fly. It's a favorite model of mine, although I was hoping for a more unique skeleton, like having spider legs would have been a cool twist, or at the very least, at least close the canopy while flying, like the Sky Golem and I think it's called the Fellsteel Annihilator. I think those can do it, so it kind of looks awkward if it doesn't. And we've got to talk about the new human racial that's going to replace diplomacy. Now, as many of you know, the diplomacy racial is the rep bonus that humans have enjoyed for many, many years. It's like a must-have for those who are racing for milestones, including profession recipes. We're the first ones there. They make off with a whole ton of cash. With rep going mostly account-wide in the War Within and going forward, it'd no longer be a human bonus, but it would be like an account bonus if we happen to play as a human first, so it would set a weird precedent. So welcome in advance to our future influx of Blood Elf players. Just kidding. Sort of. So what humans are getting instead is a racial called No Place Like Home, where your Hearthstone's cooldown is reduced by 5 minutes, and it also gets a second charge. And I think this is pretty freaking awesome. Hearthstones already have a base cooldown of 30 minutes, and it's dropped down to 15 minutes with the Hasty Hearth guild perk, and if the racial stacks, and it likely should, then I guess it's going to go down to only 10 minutes, and with 2 charges that makes for some very easy rubber banding, as I call it. Rubber banding is where from your hearth you can go to some nearby objective, and then you hearth back to save on travel time to go to another objective, and then if the time taken is just right, they can hearth again. Preferably this is back to their capital city with a portal room. The strength is most felt from the person who does a lot of traveling outdoors, whether it's zone farming or they're traveling from one spot to another for transmog farming. I've seen a few comments saying that this is a pretty weak racial replacement considering what we came from before, but I mean, it's a racial, what should we expect? And on the other hand, others are saying that this is pretty damn strong, even to a point where some shaman players are feeling a little bit jealous that their astral recall ability doesn't feel quite as special anymore. And, I kind of get it. But think about this. A little further down the line, we're more than likely to have shaman playable by all races, including humans. Now that's going to be pretty wild, but probably not as wild as undead or mechanome shaman. That's going to be the show, and along with beta next week, there is a non-zero chance that the Awaken rotations in Season 4 will come to an end, meaning a free-for-all for anyone still looking to earn achievements and transmog and more during this last season. We're going to be fresh into a new month with Summerware in the trading post, the launches of the Remix and the Cataclysm Classic stuff. It's going to be a bit more behind us, but in front of us, beta coverage. You can expect me to go over what's changed, what's been added, and probably more on the state of professions. So far, I've been pretty excited over it, and I've been waiting to see the pieces really start coming together so I can give some takes. Anyway, let's give a big thanks to our family over on Twitch. We got some great growth this month. To our super awesome patrons, thanks for carrying me, and to you, viewer, thank you. You made it to the end. You fed the algorithm. So please like the video, subscribe for more coverage, and catch me live in the mornings on Twitch. Stay safe, stay healthy, and stay breezy.